other groups. So I haven't really read through the actual, yeah, the actual case or anything, or the actual lawsuit. But yeah, it's interesting. So that's good. Resort fees are evil, and I feel bad for Marriott kind of getting singled out. But you know what? Hey, if you have drip pricing as a policy at some point, and I've been saying this for years, it's going to come back, and it's going to be some sort of legislative sort of decision, because the industry won't regulate itself, because whoever is a bad actor wins, because they're doing it wrong, and they're doing a bad business practice, which is pretty much illegal everywhere else. So this is what happens.
Yeah, it was inevitable, and I think it
Yeah.
was necessary. And like you said, legislation was the only way this would really get resolved. Now, I've been talking to some clients recently, and I have kind of a counter view of it at the moment for certain categories, right?
They make a lot of money on it.
Well, they do. They like it. But we work with a lot of condotels, as you know, and so if you have a condotel, you have individual owners of the units, and you're splitting revenue with them, and those percentages shift and have the pressure of external rental companies coming in and taking units and then renting them out and offering a smaller commission is forced people to drop those. So resort fees, in a way, for a lot of our clients, when I start looking at their P&Ls, it's the only way some of them survive. It's the only way they can maintain enough of the inventory managing the front desk in a property, especially if you're dealing with a big property. So by eliminating resort fees, my prediction of what's going to happen is not good for a lot of industry properties if they're condotels, because these profitability for the management company is going to go away. They're going to have to find a way to make that money up somewhere else. But more importantly, offsite renters are going to come in and rent more units. So you can end up in situations like you do with Panama City Beach now, where you have 30 different operators renting rooms out of the same building. From a consumer, they don't care. It's a hotel to them. They don't know the difference. They're booking at the hotel name. But 30 different people can sell that. That creates a lot of confusion. It creates a lot of disparity in the quality of the product. I mean, it's going to be a nightmare for a large segment of properties. And there's certain destinations like Panama City, like Daytona, like Myrtle Beach, these beach resort destinations, the overwhelming majority of inventory is condotel. It's not hotel. So this could be a major problem for some major destinations in the next 5 or so years.
Well, and I guess it's if the organizations they're working with aren't charging fees on those resort fees, or they are going to charge fees on those resort fees. The key is on this for the customer. If it's a mandatory fee, you list at the beginning exactly the way airlines do, exactly the way car rental companies do, and you say, here's the price. Now you can have certain things of, just like hotel management companies, they may say, yeah, we got 3% of gross revenue or something. Everything that comes in, we got 3%. Or a lot of the hotel brands, oh, we're 7% of room revenue, or whatever the case may be, right? So you can negotiate those things out. But so who's taking all the revenue from an intermediary? The booking sites, are the where is all of this excess margin being absorbed? I guess is the question. And so if it's a parasite, right? My perspective is the worst kind of parasite is the stupid parasite that kills the host. Right? That's not a successful strategy. So anyway, I don't know. Yeah, we'll have to see. And I certainly understand that. Hey, these resort fees were thought to be kind of a way to put some money aside from room occupancy tax, shelter it from commissions, and do all that sort of stuff. But if it's a mandatory fee, most of the jurisdictions have come down and said, nope, you pay occupancy tax because it's a mandatory fee.
Which they should, for sure. And I don't think it's the concept of a fee is the problem, right? It's how it's being implemented. It's the fact that it's drip pricing. It's shown at the end. It's not shown at the beginning. It's not broken out. It's not clear what you're getting for that.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of people who will resist removing them. I think they'll just change how they're presenting it.
Absolutely.
And that's probably the right thing for them.
And that's what happened in 2012-ish when the Federal Trade Commission came out and said, hey, hotel companies, you're doing it wrong. You need to reveal these. And they kind of did earlier on. But again, you couldn't comparison shop, right? And that was the whole purpose that these things started in the beginning. And when there are examples of literally an $18 rate in Las Vegas with a $34 resort fee, there's something wrong, right? And the argument of, well, you don't have to tell people the taxes when you go to the grocery store. It's like, yeah, but that's a uniform thing across all goods. It's kind of an understood thing. This is not that at all.
Stuart, you're much more fluent on this than I am, but my experiences with condo hotels and so forth, some of the allure of people investing in these and having their condo put into the inventory systems or buying into projects that have this as a medium for the place that they're buying it as a moneymaker, was the allure of flexibility. It's like, hey, we don't try to control this too much. You have a lot of influence on how you can rent yours out, so forth and so on. Well, that's come back to bite them, because without strong control from the top, how revenue is managed for all of them, that I only want what's for me, and I don't care about everybody else mentality. You could have a great pristine unit in a really dilapidated building just simply because you didn't contribute your fair contribution or relationship with everybody else. That equal distribution, equal percentage usage, all these things that get thrown off the side as an incentive for somebody to invest in it now should be placed back in to really start to mitigate some of this. Hey, we need to make sure that we're not, as you pointed out, 15 different channels of opportunity, prices, variations, you going behind people's back and subletting it out yourself. All those things need to get reined in and put a fence around, and there could be a standardization value that would help a little bit, I think, anyway.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one of the challenges that industry faces in general is you can stay at the same property 2 years in a row or 2 days in a row. Like, you could check in one day, having booked through one group, and then the next day you could check in, book through another group, or even the same group, and have a completely different experience, because the individual homeowners are responsible for the furnishings in the room, the quality, whether they're upgrading. Now, the management companies tend to encourage them to follow, buy a certain package to upgrade at the same time, but a lot of people bought it as an investment property. They don't want to put more money in. They just want to suck as much out. And it's a real challenge. A lot of them face. The good ones have kind of overcome that by just doing a really good job at showing return, and it makes sense. And then they'll grade property units and give different pricing based on that. But
well, I mean, even to the point where just things that they go over and they penalize properties that don't keep up with their standards by influencing percentage usage on other units that have, which forces the hand of the people that don't want to invest to find alternate means to book their own space, and it creates a problem in some ways.
Yeah, it does, because then that person goes to an offsite management company, and then the guest has a bad experience because they don't maybe get access to all the amenities, and then they check in and they have that bad experience. They leave, they go and leave a review. They're not leaving a review of who they booked through. They're leaving a review of the property, and it reflects poorly on all the units, regardless of
and with fractional ownership, right, where you have literally the same unit week to week or even day to day, depending on the arrival departure pattern, being different people who are merchandising the property different. They may have different photos. They may, who knows what they have.
But
different amenities.
Resort fees, when valuable, I think are useful. I mean, if you're truly buying into the availability and accessibility of things, like resort fees originally were nascent as, that's one thing. But just being able to slap a conditional fee on so that you can tailor a different price offering and so forth, that's the exploitative part, I think, is.
But I would say the resort fees were never that from the beginning, because what they did was they were completely from the beginning a ruse to say, what can we charge for? We want to charge a fee for things that people don't use, right? So, or for fixed
I'm not disagreeing with you, but I have a picture in mind that I remember back in the day, there were some fees in Florida. I mean, I personal experience was that there were some resorts that the resort fee was actually applied to their ability for the guests to have food accesses where they didn't have to pay initially for, kind of like the cruise ship mentality, that it was almost like a buyout.
Well, was it optional? Was it optional or mandatory?
No, they were optional. That's what I'm saying. They were optional.
That's not a resort
like,
fee.
hey, look, if you buy this package resort fee, well, you can have breakfast every day compared to having to go buy it.
That's a great option, right? That's a win-win for everyone. You make more money, the guest has a better experience, but they're in control of choosing that.
Yeah, the resort fee that they're talking about here is the mandatory fee.
Right. No,
you have to. And at the beginning, when people complained about it, they're like, "What the hell is this? I didn't sign up for it." The policy at most of the front desks was waive it, which made it even worse, right? Yeah. I mean, it was just really, it was stupid from the beginning, and it needs to be abolished. And
I don't think it's going to go away completely, but I think it will evolve in terms of how it's presented.
It'll get litigated away. Well, again, I think I've said on the show before, in 2015, I think it was December, I was on a conference call with 26 state attorneys general who were not them personally, but their staff. And those staff members stayed for the full 90-minute call, which is very rare. Right. Mm-hmm. I mean, they are engaged looking at this going, that's bad. But again, as I've said also on the show, with a hotelier with a company that does charge resort fees in the White House, I don't think anything's going to happen in the short term. But again, here's the Attorney General of the District of Columbia is kind of doing his own thing anyway, right?
I mean, you've seen the hotelier in the White House that changed zoning laws in D.C. so another hotel couldn't be built across from his hotel. That one, that guy?
Oh, okay. I don't know. The one who leases the hotel from the federal government, so is actually leasing it from himself. Yeah, that one.
Guy. Yeah, so, that one.
Hey, if we're going to get political, we need Tim Peter on.
We need Tim.
I know. Well, Tim is not here. Tim is protesting somewhere. He's probably locked. He's chained himself to something. Something. Yeah. Exactly.
Don't cut this tree. Don't cut this tree. Oh, anyway, so the other Marriott target shooting practice today is I don't think 99 million is enough. I think that's a slap.
This is a very interesting point. There is a lot of the range apparently in the UK, when you look at it on a per record basis, goes anywhere from 3 cents to $15, and I think this one worked out to like 30 cents or 15 cents or something like that. I don't know. So it was somewhere in the range, but it's a really
we had somebody that came from England that would know this. We've got a South African.
I know. New Zealand.
Well, wait. If you do, well, what would they do in New Zealand? That's pretty close to.
There you go.
Well, it's geographically close to England, isn't it? I don't know.
You guys are funny. No, I mean, I think it's been one of the criticisms of GDPR in general is there's a lot of ambiguity in not just the regulation but the enforcement as well. So that is a massive range. I mean, imagine if they come out and said, it's going to be $15 a record. I mean, Marriott would struggle to overcome that, right? So I think what they're doing is making it hurt. It's substantial dollars. They're picking it on the low end, but the next burst in, I think it'll probably be a little higher, and then they're going to gradually go up and up and up until people are going to be put out of business.
And British Airways
is going to have a factor too. I mean, in the sense of what's the frequency of returnability on this, where that it happens again, that it didn't get corrected for from the last penalization. Sure. I think that will be an amplification of cost too. This first time is like you said, make it hurt, make it noticeable, but really see if they've learned their lesson.
Yep.
Well, British Airways got hit for 183 million pounds, which I think with the pound conversion rate, that's like a lot more.
Yeah.
But and again, what is that? 200 some? Well, what 240? I don't know. Whatever, 250 million US dollars. So, but that was for 500,000 customers, getting hacked. So all of a sudden you kind of look at it and go, well, wait, in that case, they were up at, 25 cents. So, Marriott should be happy they didn't get hit with the same level as British Airways, but.
Yeah, and I wonder if the volume of the volume of people that were breached being from the EU was different between the two. So I would imagine,
maybe. That's true.
Marriott had a lot more US, other area-based consumers than British Airways would have had. So.
That's true. I think it may have been like 30 million or something.
I have a more scientific reason for this. I know the scientific answer for this. British Airways is like your own family brother. You can beat the crap out of them, but nobody else can.
Perhaps. Yeah,
maybe so.
That's my scientific evaluation of that one.
although technically not part of the EU, so more British.
Yeah. Well, I think they're still in it now.
Well, they are. They're trying to break out. But
Yeah.
yeah.
But
But I
If
think,
you're trying to travel back to England, I mean, the exchange rate right now is pretty good for the U.S. dollar.
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Well, the
And
max,
really,
the
honestly, there's some great
max.
flights and great costs over there right now. I found one that was $387 round trip to London. I'd have to hop up to Atlanta to take advantage of it. Nothing out of Florida, but out of Atlanta, you can get over to England, to London, Heathrow for that. So
wow, that's great. Yeah, that's very cheap. Yeah, prices, it's weird. I mean, depending on when and where you're flying, it can be $300-$400 or $1,500. You know, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to be careful. I have to time it when I travel home for sure.
Yeah. So, all right, we beat up on Marriott for both things that are good reasons for
But can
it.
we talk about GDPR in general, or data protection and privacy? Because I think that's the lesson to be learned, rather than just going, ha ha, you know, Nelson from Simpson style at Marriott. I think we should probably take a breath and say, okay, what does this mean? I mean, clearly the EU is sending a signal that they're taking this stuff seriously. And I really don't feel like, and there was another article today about, you know, how are people in the US especially dealing with GDPR, which we can touch on. But most of the people I talk to, even though we've educated them, even though we've encouraged them, even though we've really pushed them hard, still are not taking it seriously, still don't really give two hoots about data privacy across the board, and their marketing side, on their guest history side. It's insane to me that people are just turning a blind eye to it.
Right. And I think it's also very misunderstood. I was on a conference call earlier with a lot of tech folks and CIOs and things like that, talking about GDPR, and even the record retention stuff was really, they're like, well, you have to get rid of it every year. It's like, no, you need to opt in. You need people to opt in and to agree and to be transparent with your practices and then abide by those practices, sort of thing. And then you can keep the records for as long as you need them. And some people are saying, well, hey, for a 10th anniversary, should I hang on to that? I go, I don't know. Maybe that's a court decision, but if you're doing everything else right, are they really going to hit you for that? I don't think so.
I talked to a client yesterday that's shopping for a new PMS, and they were on a demo call with the PMS company, and I got a text during that demo, and he's like, these PMS guys are saying that we have to delete all our guest records after a year. It's just not true. It's factually incorrect. But people are deliberately spouting misinformation because their PMS automatically did that stuff, right? So it was like selling a feature that against other PMSs. And they're like, well, you can't go with these guys because they don't do it, and you're going to be breaking GDPR. But I think if we back up a little bit and say, okay, what? You know, regardless of, yes, there's a little bit of ambiguity with GDPR, both on what the regulations are and the enforcement. But let's look at the intent, right? Why did it come into existence? Because we misused consumer data. And the way I always try to explain it to people is, you know, when someone is in your hotel and someone comes to the front desk and says, what room is, you know, Robert Cole in? You're not going to tell them because you're protecting their data. But
unless I booked it myself, and it's down near the kitchens in a broom closet.
And then they ask, where is Stuart Butler? And he's like, he's in the basement. But people understand the fundamentals of privacy, right?
Those are the hotels without the restraining orders. Okay, to keep you out of the basement.
This is true. But the point is that we understand privacy is important. We always have. It's been a cornerstone of the hospitality industry. So why are we treating digital data any differently? You know, why would we not want to treat the data the way that the guest wants it to be treated, the way we would want it to be treated? And it's really, really simple. It really is. You just have to have a plan on how you're collecting, why you're collecting, and why you're storing this data. And then you have to be transparent about it. Like Robert said, you have to tell people and give them clear information about what you're collecting, what you're going to do with it, and let them acknowledge that they've read that. And
that's exactly the point that you made before, that I completely agree with. In answer to your statement, Robert, about whether there's a 10-year anniversary, ask the guest, can we retain the information? We have an anniversary system that we like to acknowledge your history with us, and we'll retain the data as long as you tell us it's okay for us to acknowledge our relationship with you. And that opens the door for that. If somebody comes in and says, where's your GDPR workbook? And it's like, well, why are you holding 7-year-old data? Well, that data is in our anniversary database, and that was with these permissions that have been acknowledged by all those that are in the database. It says, yeah, it's okay to hang on to this data and remind me that we've had this relationship. It's that kind of guest-focused thing that you're pointing
you don't want to. You don't want to overcomplicate it, because again, you don't want this daunting read through the 300 pages and make sure you check each one, sort of thing that confirm that they read it. But yeah, if you have ones that say, we will do this for transactional stuff while you stay. This is for future marketing purposes, or we share it with our partners, all the various facets of it.
Well, I add another layer to that, though. I mean, I completely agree with you. You don't want an 18-page doc. You don't want the Apple and Google terms and conditions that you never read and you
nobody reads.
Okay, but the thing that, and if Edward here, he'd probably be the one that points at this faster. Perpetual conversation, incubation conversations, workflow conversations, engagement conversations with your guests over time as you interact with them, asking a little bit more, engaging a little bit more, clarifying a little bit more. In that process, you can ask very specific things like, hey, it's your anniversary. Can we keep track of this from now on? That kind of engagement stuff without it having to be a 30-page document is
the buzzword now is conversational commerce, right? That's the thing where it is. It's a dialogue. It's not just this broadcast, right? And that's important. And that's I just wrote this paper on personalization for Focusrite, and we broke it down into 3 categories, right? Customization, because it's personalization is kind of confused term for a lot of people. It's like big data, right? Yeah, people are like, what is it? Seems kind of important, but they can't really define it. So customization is you get an explicit signal from the guest, 2 adults, 2 children. Hey, that looks like a family. Maybe I should return some family related information. That's fine. Then you have individualization, which isn't a great word, but if you don't know anything about them, you go, well, hey, this person's from Chicago. Never seen them before, but it's July. I'm going to go put up some stuff that has pictures of, I don't know, the Hawaii and Wisconsin or Florida, whatever, Disney, whatever it may be, whatever you're selling. And that's fine, because you've based that on a history of all these people who've converted before and worked it back up through the funnel and gone, there's a higher probability of this, so we're guessing based on this information. You're making inferences. And then the third one was personalization, where you're opted in, and they've said, yes, we are willingly sharing this information for you. Hey, you're part of the frequent guest program. Here's all sorts of stuff about us, every place we stayed, all the stuff we like. And that's where the GDPR stuff really comes in. You can then do personalization. And that's why we broke it out that way, right? It's kind of say, hey, the stuff beforehand isn't really GDPR-ish. There's no personally identifiable stuff. Once you get into that, then you can have true personalization and you can start the conversation, right? I mean, that's the way to do it. So anyway.
Yeah, and I think that's the way we're going as an industry. Fuel's been working a lot over the last several months, getting away from the old paradigm of persona-based marketing and figuring out, well, this is generally what groups of people in our property look like, and more to your point, to this real personalized, individualized communication, messaging, experience on the website. So that, I think that's the way we're going, and it's a lot more effective, because I check some boxes that fit me into this group of people doesn't mean I behave like everyone in that group.
Right.
I was going to actually ask you to get a little more clarity on it, because for me, my concern was I still am an advocate of persona-based marketing, but to your point that you just made, Stuart, not out of categorizations based on standardization, but rather creatively knowing individualizations of the personas, not because they fit the typical persona templates that everybody uses, like the 88 categories of personas that you can categorize. That.
Yeah. No, there's some usefulness to persona. That's a neat kind of approach to figuring out and sorting your marketing in the manageable buckets. But when you're dealing with communication, especially to individuals, rather than looking at demographics, looking at behaviors is way more important.
Yes.
Because the same person that has these attributes has different needs at different times. And if you bucket someone in as a road warrior, that travels for work, that doesn't preclude them from at some time wanting to go on a romantic getaway or a family vacation or whatever. So it really is, I think the first category that Robert talked about, looking at those implied the implied information, like who are they traveling with this time? What dates are they looking for? What room type are they looking for? You can leverage that information, and that's behavioral stuff, not demographic stuff. And it gets, it can be a lot more complex, but it's a lot more effective.
Yeah, and to the point, I think the sequence that you just mentioned is the critical aspect of this. The intent goes first, the demographics, because demographics are still usable tool filters on your platforms for marketing distribution, because that is a definable context to where you're targeting. Once you identify the intent, there is demographic information associated with it. Like I often say when I speak at these things with this stuff, is like, unless a little small blue person shows up at your front door, you don't sell to Smurf business, but you categorize.
That's such a dad joke, Lauren.
Hey, humor from stage, man. No, but the intent of the business is the key first question, and the second is who has that intent right now. And to your point, the same person that traveled for business may be traveling for pleasure, for family, for whatever. That is a different intent at that point.
Yeah, and it allows you to,
right?
Yeah, and it allows you to start changing the timing of communication, so it becomes hyper relevant. Because if you're demographic marketing and you're saying, okay, I'm going to send anyone that stayed as a couple's weekend, I'm going to send them this romantic package next Monday, right? It's a long shot that you're going to get anyone at the right time looking for that thing. But if you set up an automated trigger so that any time that someone you've identified or has revealed themselves comes to the site, starts looking at a romance package, that you're triggering messaging that's relevant to them based on their exact behavior at that exact time, it's way more relevant, way more engaging, has much more effective in terms of conversion rate, guest satisfaction, all those things.
But at the same time, you also have to be careful where if you get very clever, like you get some sort of wizard of this data like Mr. Gray here who goes, oh, I figured out a way where someone came to the site and they did the romance package, and after they checked out, we're going to go send them. But this happened way pre-internet. I think I've said the story before. Send them a bathrobe because they were in a suite. It was cherry blossom season in Washington with a beautiful thank you letter, and you send it by courier, and this is great. And boy, it arrived during the day, and there must have been some mistake because the spouse received it and could have sworn the other person was in Los Angeles that weekend because it was very specific. You got to be careful because they did not opt in for that communication, and all of a sudden you've created your best intention on these inferences.
I'm going to pull a Robert. I'm going to pull a Robert. This has happened at Four Seasons in Palm Beach.
No, it did not. It happened at Four Seasons.
No. I'm going to tell you a story that happened at Four Seasons Palm Beach. Where this couple comes in, and of course the typical, with the Four Seasons and the microphones to the doorman and so forth and so on. As they came in and they discovered who the person was, one of them said, hello, Mr. Smith, great to see you again. Well, the wife did not know that Mr. Smith had been to the Four Seasons before. And things went awry.
This is your third stay. It's nice you're staying overnight instead of just doing day rates.
But something as little as that can be devastating.
Would you like the caviar and whatever sent to the room and go, wait, I'm allergic to cat what?
The conversation goes so fast.
No, and that is the double-edged sword of our shows, shows number, 800 and 950 sort of thing. We're probably going to be going through just complete gaffes of personalization run amok, right?
Very true. Very true.
Crap. I was going to say one thing on the personas, and I've forgotten it. Oh, well, that's fine.
I love that conversation because to me, right now, I'm in a bit of a paralysis. I of course, got a new toy from AppSumo called Attico.
Of course you did.
And I dumped it onto a campaign I was running for HSMAI for their Singapore strategy conference as to who was engaging with the Facebook ads. And it had all this psychographic and behavioral breakdowns. And I'm just staring at it in mental awe of, I think I showed that to you, Robert. We did a screen share last week.
Pretty impressive.
I'm looking at it. It's like too much. I don't know, even begin to know how to create correlations with that without literally extracting out data over time sequences and just seeing if there's any behavioral changes and that's a boatload of work to figure out.
And that's why AI is so important, right? Because you got some quality AI. And is this time to do the plug for Blue Shift? I don't know.
Yeah,
Stuart,
maybe. Absolutely.
Blue Shift. Donde está Blue Shift?
But I mean, you get an organization that's taking all this data where you could work on it for a long time and maybe not pick up these correlations, and who knows, you throw it into some AI, and again, it's not just something that is crap, but something that is really looking at it, and all of a sudden you get some output that might inform you going, well, some of these signals look like such and such is a good predictor of this behavior or whatever, which is great, but then you need to test it, right, to see what is going on, and is it really an indicator, or is it just something that it looked like it, but you know what? It really didn't have anything to do with it. It's a complete misnomer.
How is some of the functionalities of Blue Shift that you're using it within your system? What are some of the things that it's doing with you?
Yeah, so the AI piece is really interesting, and we're really just scratching the surface. So for folks that don't know, Blue Shift is a company that, based in California, they've been doing AI-based CRM for the retail space for a while. So Fuel has partnered with them to tackle the hospitality industry and bring their AI technology and our knowledge of hotel marketing together and really try to disrupt what has really become antiquated technology in our space. So the AI is really interesting because it really does allow us to do exactly what Robert was talking about, which is take like mammoth amounts of data. So we can build a really complex, ever-evolving, unique data map of every guest. So it's a NoSQL database, so you can basically lump any data together you want, whether that's demographics, stay history, behavior. So you can see when they hit the website, what they're interacting with, when they click on an ad, whatever it is, you can append all this data into this really detailed, what we consider a golden record of each guest. And then the AI comes in and it starts trying to optimize towards a specific goal. So if your goal is when someone enters the website, you want them to book, I would hope that's most people's goal. They're going to look at all your guest history that the AI does, and it says, all right, this person looks and behaves like they do. Statistically, there's an 80% chance that they want this. So you can then start to recommend or customize recommendations to them, like what packages, rooms you're showing them, what photos you're showing them, what blog articles you're showing them, what questions you're answering. And then as you do that, it's automatically optimizing. So it learns from itself and says, okay, we thought this person was 80% likely to book. And there were 10 of those people that were 87. Well, we showed these people this content and these people this content, or nudged them this way or that way, and this worked and that didn't. So now we're going to optimize in that direction. So it takes all the manual stuff, what you were just talking about with your new little toy, where it's like, I'm overwhelmed with all this data. How do I take insights from this and actually put an action plan together? Well, with Blue Shift, you don't have to, because it automatically evolves and updates and optimizes itself based on whatever your end objective is, whether it's collecting an email address, whether it's booking, whatever. So, yeah.
But you still have to be very careful with it, though, too, because let's say the person has you believe that they have high booking intent, but they keep winding up on this page where it's about the hotel and whatever. Well, you find out they're going to the phone number or something like that, right? Because maybe they're calling because, I don't know, maybe your website isn't giving them something that you haven't thought of that's really important. Who knows why, right?
That's why
they want to know the tides because they're fishermen, or I don't know.
So that's why it's really important that you take that behavioral information. So you're not just looking at, well, what page did they land on, or where did they click, but you're also looking at how they interacted with the page. So is it click to call? Did they click on the phone number? Or
they just abandoned right after that, the page with the phone. They keep abandoning on this page with the phone number. Well, maybe it isn't the behavior that you want, but it may be, hey, how do you fix this, and how do you get them back
one of
into
the things
or offer click the call and see what happens there.
All right. So a lot of our clients now, they're using, we set up a version of our booking engine for reservationists. So we're actually already integrated with a call center app called, or product called Aspect. We're talking to Navis about doing the same thing. But what we're able to do with a lot of our clients that are using Blue Shift, which is really cool, is we can track the same person, because if they're identified online and then they get identified in the call center system, we're picking that data back up and appending it to their profile. So we can actually bridge that gap. We can see when someone was on the website and ended up in the call center.
Are you guys using a unique phone number for that, or you just?
Well, we do, yeah. It does use unique phone numbers in terms of campaigns, but we don't need to, because what happens is, if they've revealed themselves at any point in history, we've collected some kind they've booked before, they've signed up for an email, whatever it is, online, they have a profile. Then when they call and the reservationist starts putting in that it's Robert Cole and has an email address or a phone number that we can match to the profile, then that data being collected can get appended to there, so we can say, okay, this person now called at this time. So.
Well, and it's interesting. Some groups, and this has been going on for a while. I did some work on this with really early on with Salesforce, and I think Salesforce bought the organization that we were doing the call number in with. But this was more of a B2B type thing. But what was happening is these guys had a variety of products, right? There was a credit card thing, there was an ATM product, there was another, I can't remember, a nonprofit type thing. And they'd come into normally like an IVR that would go, hit 1, 2, 3 to get queued over to some. Instead, you had this kind of going where they wound up on the website, they wanted information, here's a number, boom. And from the Salesforce side, you got all this tracking stuff, right? That, you knew exactly, here was their path, they were on this page. So that put them into a certain bucket of behaviors, and then you could channel it right to that person, right? Which was great. Or you could send it to, we sent it to a queue that would then go to the one person, so then you could swap it out if they were out of town or something like that. But unbelievable conversion. And some of the groups who use this, actually Salesforce was doing it for a while, where you'd go onto their website or something. It was like your second or third visit, and they'd call you and go, "Hi, Robert, just wondering about the such and such." And like, "Oh, wow, you're freaking me out," because I was on that page 30 seconds ago, and again, on a B2B type thing, they're like, strike while the iron's hot, right?
For sure.
So you can do amazing things, but again, you start getting into some interesting. If your folks aren't opted in from a GDPR perspective to go use that data to go do it, you can get into trouble. So, I remember the thing I was going to say. It wasn't based strictly on personas. One of the CI or product managers, actually, it was for a hotel, a very large, prominent hotel competitor, told us that they were doing some things with personas and things like that. But their problem was, it was really easy to put people into buckets, and it was really, really hard to take them out of buckets, right? And that was causing real problems because of this changing, itinerary-based persona. What's the goal of the trip? And it's like, I'm going to a conference, I'm doing this, I'm going to visit family, and they're back to back on even the same, combination of flights on some open jaw ticket. So it can get really tricky.
I don't disagree with that. I mean, in the nature of things, the original reason why, when I talk about these things on stages of, is that we categorize people, is because we as humans can't handle the individuality of what we're doing to engage with. We stereotype people when we talk to them. We categorize them mentally when we first meet or whatever it is, because we're trying to quickly as possible assess what this person is based on their physique, their manner of speaking, their any cultural clues that we have. We categorize them, stereotype, and we do the same thing with marketing, where we categorize them based on the source of business. And to the greatest point that I think that you both have mentioned, is that the better, stronger way is the intent of business, not because we think they're doing this because of, but because we've been able to identify why that they're coming to us, for what reason. And so it isn't bad to categorize, in the sense that we are creatures of habit. We go into a grocery store, we turn right. We look at everything at eye level before we look high or low. There's things that we do as human beings, I guess, that we have as a culture have come into these patterns of. And the same goes with our travel things. When conferences, what's transportation, what's Wi-Fi, what's within walking distance. There's fundamental aspects of types of people. But, and I think you both made a great point with both of this, is that it's also going past that. It's going past that initial intent to re-identifying the true interest.
And
for sure. And identifying that. And that's what
and I don't think any of us are saying personas are bad or you shouldn't use them, because they really are helpful when it comes to like content planning. things like that. So
they're
like
great for humans. Really, really informative. Oh no, they are. They help you socialize us and say, hey, we're going after this group of whatever bachelorette parties
right. So
or whatever, some
what
sort of
matters
wedding.
to those types of people. Yeah, and you can write content around it in blogs. But I think it's where you begin. But to your point, Lauren, I think you've got to take it beyond that. Once you have someone hooked through the content, then I think you've got to really pay attention to the individual behavior and imply stuff from that and have a conversation with that person as an individual, as opposed to as an unnamed or number within that group of people.
Which is always so perfect on your website. And then you just, because you really want to test the relationship with the customer, throw them into a completely generic booking engine experience. So it's totally disoriented. It has nothing to do with all the information you gave them and the nurturing and what they wanted. And then,
into the meat grinder you go.
Just to make sure they have earned that booking to stay at your hotel and not just kind of easily done it. So,
we're actually doing starting to work on an experiment with Flip2 right now, where Ed and his team have a hypothesis, which we'll find out if it's right or not, but the way that we go through the transaction right now, where people have to put in dates, have to select the number of people or number of rooms and then a room type, maybe isn't the optimal way to get people to book. And so what we're trying to do is learn more about the guest and then cater the experience to them. So but by having them reveal smaller chunks of information, like for example, when are you traveling, instead of having a specific date, asking them like a season or a month, whether it's instead of what's the purpose of your travel up front. So then you can tailor the experience to showing them information that's going to be relevant to them. So we're kind of baking some of that into our booking engine experience for the entire Myrtle Beach market. And we're going to be running constant A/B tests to see what kind of influence it has, but could be really cool.
It's kind of funny because I know we're going to get to the OYO conversation a little bit, but you're talking about influencing influencers within the market space like OYO that's changing the profile between their dynamic pricing or their scalability of their transitions of product to accommodate the simple necessity of having a place to stay, the economy hotel profile or whatever. But to your point, what you're saying is not every time I travel do I need certain things within rooms. If I was given the opportunity to identify my needs of travel before I have to sort through the information you've dumped on me as to what room types I have options on, where I don't necessarily need a kitchenette this time. I don't necessarily need, I don't know, other variables I could not to pop up fast enough to say, but in there that I really just need the accommodation of a place to sleep and move on. But then other times, no, I need space. I got lots of suitcases because I'm going on a cruise, so I got need a little extra space. So I need a suite or a bigger room, or I have need for a second bed or whatever it is. I mean, those things, those variations as an entryway into being then given. Because one of the questions I was going to ask you, which I think answered by what you just said, was how do I handle FOMO? Fear of missing out. And it's really not about missing out on something, is qualifying the best product opportunity for you without saying that you have to go through everything else to validate that.
Right. Yeah, it's about helping the guest, not selling the guest. It's the same approach that Fuel has as our marketing strategy in general, right? We do the podcast, we put out studies and things because it helps people, and then they see the value in us, and they're more likely to have a good, positive relationship with us that can lead to business down the road. It's the same thing in hospitality, where if you genuinely want to learn about the person in a way that's not intrusive, is not going to scare them in terms of what you're asking.
Have a better time.
But here's why I'm asking this question, and here's why it benefits you. The people are going to do that, and they're going to appreciate it, and you're going to have a deeper, more meaningful relationship. It's going to be less transactional, and it's going to be from a long-term loyalty and value of guests over time perspective is going to be tremendous.
And the bottom line, it comes down to respecting the guest, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the bottom line, and that ties back to the resort fees, where if you're disrespecting them from, kind of tricking them on the price and things like that. No, you're doing have respect for their time, have respect for how you can give them the best experience they're looking at, as opposed to boosting your revenue to meet your whatever your quarterly goal and get a bonus or something like that, right?
And the other part too, which is kind of fun, that this does answer to it. I don't know whether you guys have thought about this, Stuart, when you're making this great evil plan to take over the universe. But the other is that you have the
none of this is authentic or sincere. Stuart is just a large ploy.
Right. The other thing that you fight is more is better. Everybody wants I have a bigger room, but I didn't have to pay for it. Or I have the presidential suite, but I didn't have to cough up the dollars. And sometimes really it's about the affordability functionality of it. And other times it's not. Other times that extra space is a welcome and warranted thing. Other times it's not. But if you qualify them in a way that you're talking about, then you're not fighting that tendency of, well, what else can I get? What more can I get? What more can I get? Because unfortunately, even the loyalty programs, as they're so calling themselves now with the big brands, they're about standardization of what you're finding a preference. But those preferences can't be met in every room type that they travel globally through. Their inventory is too diverse for that to be maintained. So you get that disappointment that even though you love the luxury down pillows that you get at the JW, you can't get it at the Courtyard. They're not the same pillow, but you're asked the same question on your loyalty profile.
Right.
Here you're able to, based on the product that they're looking at staying, offer them true value propositions or variations specific to what they are interested in having. Do I need a big room that is adjoining? Do I need 2 beds? Do I need a refrigerator? Do I need whatever? You make it I think it's a brilliant idea, actually.
Well, and that's getting into that attribute-based selling, which can have some very, good positives, but boy, with a lot of the status of property management, they are just not set up to do that.
Yeah, we've actually got it working with a couple now where we can, on the booking engine, charge additional fees for certain selections, and we've got it to where we've got a handful of attributes, whether it's floor, right? So think about this. There's a lot of people that specifically would rather stay on the ground floor or on the low floor. And there's people that specifically want to be in the middle, and there's people that specifically want to be at the top. And people are willing to pay for that specific choice. And so you can monetize. Right now it's random where people end up, right? And unless they can select their room like on Hilton. So why not give people an attribute of a room like the floor? And if they want to choose that, maybe it's not guaranteed, but maybe it's an optional thing. You can choose this, but there's a $5 surcharge if you do, for the convenience of that. That's a win-win, right? Because that's a way to generate more revenue and profit margins, but at the same time improving the guest experience because they're getting something that's so valuable to them that they're willing to pay for it and happy.
Yeah, and that's an interesting thing because, again, the more personalized you get, I generally like high floors away from the elevator, right? Just personally. That's really bad for a life safety fire reason, maybe. I don't know. Sure. Depending on where the location of the stairs are, which is generally near the elevator core. Right?
So for all hoteliers listening to the show, Robert Squeeze and Nickel Cole likes to be down by the ice machine at the least usable room to make sure that he's away from the farthest people possible.
No, but with that, friend. If you charge me $5 more for a ground floor, I'm like, why would I do that? That's just so stupid, right? Yeah, I wouldn't want. So it gets really complicated. And then if you start getting a situation where, okay, you've managed to personalize this and you found that you're able to upsell the people who want ground floor rooms, and maybe it is just more like, it's more like the airlines, hey, pay in advance to pick your seat, right? And maybe if you can execute on that, that's certainly an option. But you then have to say, well, the high floor is also $5 more, and here's this in the middle, and all of a sudden, for one person, no, the pricing should go down the higher I go, and the other person should be it should go higher the other way.
You got to be careful.
It just gets really, really complex when you get a couple of examples or groups of people who go, wait, why am I getting this price and they're getting that? Oh my God, because they know that New Zealand and South Africa and Ireland are all part of the British Isles and located so close to England, sort of thing. That why is that particular group getting a better rate than me, an American who's so aware of the world?
I think you've got to be careful how you present the information to people and make sure it's not distracting or creating confusion or adding friction, because that's the last thing you want to do. So, I think it could be as simple as, advanced search options or something like that. And then you just say, rather than showing the list of here are the different things you can choose, it's the category of things. So you say, for $5, you can specify which floor you want to be on, and then it's an affirmative path choice versus pick top floor, pick bottom floor, pick. I want to customize my floor, and I know which one I want. You're not paying to be on the top; you're paying to be on the bottom. You're paying to choose which you want.
And my recommendation would be to do that.
Not necessarily the specific seat, although they do vary in price. It's you're actually paying for the option to be able to choose your seat.
Yeah, well, but then they have a seat map where all the seats are now graded.
Oh, sure. So then
the center seat I can pay $5 more for to pick my seat. Like,
in the hotel world of operations, there's reasons why people are put on certain floors versus other floors, because you can standardize your hotel housekeeping systems, because if you can put more people on a single floor rather than multi-stack them, you don't have as many housekeepers that need to come in because one housekeeper can facilitate a floor, or you want to put them in one chimney of room types, because that allows for you to go over and maybe turn down one of the boilers so you turn the other one up because it handles that stack and not the other stack.
Sure. Yeah.
There's operational
it certainly creates some complexities, but it's worth testing in terms of, can you generate more profit and more guest satisfaction by doing a little more work.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and the airlines have been masters at this. Not that I like this practice, and I don't think most consumers like it, but they're making a fortune on this because they've gone out now with basic economy, where you load in, group 9, right? They started saying you couldn't have overhead bin space. A couple of them still do that. Yeah, I think Spirit and some of those, but yeah, that I think most have kind of backed off a little bit on. But again, if you do that, they are going to, by God, make sure you get a middle seat, right? And it's not going to be great, because they are not going to give you the opportunity to go change it to an aisle seat, unless maybe you're a longtime loyalty member who booked this, and then they could, they have other signals to say, well, ease up on that person or whatever, because we want to be nice to them, or they're in a competitive market, right? We want to make sure we don't tick them off. But yeah, it's an interesting thing, because they are nickel and diming all these different opportunities, but they also had a sea of data to look at and go, these are the middle seats people hate, right? They never get selected on the, seat selector. So they had all that information to figure out how to charge $7 for that seat, $19 for that one, $25 for the, it's a little ugly, but I don't know. I mean, it's good business for the airlines.
It is, and I think we as a hotel industry make the mistake of comparing ourselves to the airlines too much, and looking at what they've done as a lead indicator of what we should do, and I think they're different animals, right? Because you choose a flight, price is obviously a component, but it's really often more about the convenience of where you're going and what time you want to get there and coming back, right? So those are the overriding driving factors. Doesn't matter whether you sit in an aisle seat, a window seat, have more legroom, have less. I mean, those things make it a little nicer, but flying sucks, period, for everyone, right? We don't pay to fly because we enjoy flying. It's not a leisurely thing we do. It's for a purpose. Whereas staying at a hotel, we're making that choice because we want the experience of the hotel. Well, yes, we're going for an event or whatever, we're going to that destination, but the actual experience of staying in a hotel should be positive and should be enjoyable. So I think when we start looking at what the airlines are doing, they're doing it because they can, and because it's not going to negatively impact them, because we're frustrated that we now have super basic economy that gets us like 1 inch of legroom. We're stuck because it's what airline we're going to fly on depends on where we're flying from and what destination we're going to.
It goes back to the old statement, is like, why do people try to crowd the gate to get on the plane? It's not because they don't have a seat, and if they don't get on there, they can't fly. It's their suitcase. It's whether you can get your suitcase space, and is the real element of why you try to be as early as you can on the plane. And then I had a fascinating conversation. Guy from American Airlines, actually. I realized this to a certain degree. I just didn't realize to the extent of this is, when you're talking about checking in bags and so forth, that's all data they're analyzing for what is the cubic foot space underneath the aircraft as to how much is there. And then, of course, they don't know the weights of people and the weights of the luggages and so forth. So that's always a variable that is accounted for. But as in these airports, as things are going on, they know how much anticipated empty space is going to be in the bottom of the plane. Then they know how much of that is potentially going to get filled up based on the capacity of the plane up top of those who have to turn in bags because there's no more space above people to put in bags. Right. That's calculated based on statistics and everything else like this. Then as the craft fills up, towards the latter part of this, and I didn't realize because every once in a while I'd hear the late closing of a hatch of something on the plane, the ka-chunk, okay, is once that's all figured out, the total distribution weight of the plane is calculated, and they know how much space is left, there's these roving carts of product that needs to get to the destinations that these different air carriers are going to that determine whether or not one of those products can fit into that plane and help with the shipping. I didn't realize. I was like, that's crazy. Now that's optimization of dead. I mean, at first they just complain like, well, we don't use the bottom of the planes that much. That conversation went away. They do. They optimize that space. How much more weight can go into it? How much space is left with it? And they use that as a transportation service, as an augmentation to the space they have available on the aircraft. And then sometimes they don't because they don't want to put the fuel cost into it. It's not worth it to put it on that plane. They're going to put it onto their full carrier or something. It's just the math that the instantaneous of all that's going on is just crazy data usage. It's like, that's pretty cool stuff.
Absolutely. But again, when you start getting into customer hostility and being inhospitable, the airlines are like at the top of the list, because now what happens with all this basic you've got a family who wants to go to Disney World, right? They want to go they want to go see the new Star Wars land, something like that, which is great. Yeah, I don't
Apparently
know.
No one is empty, everyone's saying. But
yeah. But anyway, all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, we'd like to have the kids kind of sit with the parents, and all of a sudden now the families are the ones who really get nailed with that, right? It's like, oh, great, we get to pay, whatever, an extra whatever for checking bags anyway, because we've got these kids and all this crap, and now we've got to go now we've got to go pay extra in seats both ways, right, on a per trip basis. And all of a sudden, they're paying 30-40% more for this.
No, just put the kid on the plane that's supposed to go to Germany and ends up in Sweden. It's no big deal. It's all right.
Exactly. Yeah, but it's pretty ugly, and I don't know. But we'll see.
Speaking of which, I have a geeked out question from Mr. Stewart. Do you know that?
Wait, whoa! That segue. He literally said ugly, and then you said, "Speaking of which," I have a question.
I said geeked out. Geeked out.
I'm offended.
No. I just have this question. I found this website. You can make your own custom lightsabers. Have you ever made yours yet?
I have not.
It's not a real lightsaber. Full disclosure.
Sorry, someone else talking to
that is not laser based.
It's not superheated plasma.
You go and take one of those and hit your sister's shoulder. Her arm is not coming off. I don't know.
Depends how hard you hit it, I guess.
Yeah, I'm about to say it depends on how hard you hit it, but no. I just found this cool site. I mean, they're really neat. There's a amazing diversity of builds on these things. I didn't realize that it's gone full blown. But then I also heard over in Star Wars at Disney that you can actually have your own lightsaber made. I wonder how much
you can make it. You make it yourself with all the components. You even pick out your own kyber crystal and put it in there to determine the color.
Again, not a real kyber crystal.
I'm sorry, Stuart. Is anybody else on the show this right now?
You're going to say that Star Wars is
by selling access to the business whose rates are being published by all these other channels, or just allow it to show up as it is. I mean, Google Hotel Ads is the perfect game of chess for meta search. Yeah, rather than just doing another meta search, why not just sell to the hotel's control to at least get to show up in the results? It's brilliant.
Yeah, it really is smart. And if you look at one of the graphs he showed was the shrinking of Trivago at the same time. There was a massive growth in Google.
It's amazing that would happen.
Yeah.
Let me move so my ceiling fan doesn't give someone like vertigo.
What do you mean, Ed? Yes, we will all subscribe to Flip 2.
Sure. What's that show where the guy has the pipe and he talks about Masterpiece Theater? Ed looks like
my lovely wingback chair.
Exactly. He needs a smoking jacket on or something.
That's right.
We're going to review Gone with the Wind
and a cigarello or a pipe. Yeah.
Oh god.
So
anyways.
So yeah, the meta search guys, with TripAdvisor. It was interesting though. TripAdvisor was growing a little bit more. The investment assigned to each TripAdvisor was growing a little bit more rapidly than from what I had been hearing.
Despite themselves,
kind of.
Despite serving no one, they somehow eked out some growth.
Yeah. We're not seeing a lot more. Our growth of Google.
Imagine that.
That's so. Steve Crawford would just be like total facepalm.
Yeah. So I'll give you a story. So because we're actually a good marketing company and we believe that we should test things that we're running and make sure they work before we actually.
What? No.
Out of thin air.
No,
without basis, data that doesn't back it
Go
up.
to Vegas
and make
sure
that the attribution is getting tracked appropriately, things like that.
What are you talking about?
Well,
everything gets 100% attribution.
Yeah, we're kind of
100%
anti-attribution theft, I feel. But one of the things we tried to do the other day, we had a client that was starting up on Google Hotel Ads, and they're starting out, so we've got a small budget, and so we're budgeting. It was like $20-$30 per time period. We'd broken out the day or whatever it was, and we literally turned it on. And the guy literally clicked the button to turn it on, went to Google to try to find it, to click on the ad to make a booking, to make sure everything's getting tracked through. By the time he went to Google from activating it, it depleted the funds already. Like they literally generated $20 or $30 worth of clicks by the time he tried to go.
Wow.
So there's a lot of demand for Google Hotel Ads, and it's effective. The ROI is solid.
In fact, I'll tell you, because now that I'm working with the meta search for one of my clients, specifically handling the account for them for it, what we've done with it is we are putting it in comparison to the PPC program we have specifically for the hotel, and we are leveraging the paid campaigns to rely heavily on the branding and identification of the hotel just with PPC campaigns. We're using the meta search because of its higher discovery level for longer tail search stuff for the destination market, especially during low traffic time period.
Wait, are you saying that there are phases of the funnel?
No, don't disregard that part of it. It's just blind faith, spray and pray.
It's really more of a bucket than a funnel, isn't it, Ed? Where you dump the stuff in and then you just toss it
with all the holes in the bucket.
Yeah. You shoot with a shotgun a few times, make sure it leaks better.
According to one of the articles, it's now a sphere instead of a funnel, which I hate that metaphor. It's terrible, man.
Well, I've always been against the funnel. I'm not against it being a sphere because it is like squirrel, it's everywhere. But
I was thinking more of like a gerbil ball, running around.
Yes, but you can effectively use, and when I say meta search, I really truly am just pretty much saying Google, because I don't mess with TripAdvisor hardly ever for any of it anymore. Trivago is a waste. I have no idea why he refers to it.
Or Kayak anymore. It's
those things are just a waste. And then I might use just like Skyscanner.
Skyscanner?
Yes, thank you. I thought I may have had it wrong, but and that's just a trick every once in a while. That's for mostly European stuff because it's such a low cost, but it has a great engagement. So
their air stuff, Skyscanner's air stuff is really good. Yeah, you're getting people, who've basically done well on the air side, who then are, wanting fries with their, with their air burger.
With your Happy Meal.
Yeah.
Hey, since we have the blessing of Ed's Masterpiece Theater look, shall we tackle the Oyo? I mean,
Oyo.
hotel a day keeps the doctor away. 5 even more a day is
Well,
even better. And
I think we should start off
23 to 92%, like that, with dynamic pricing from 23 to $67. Depends.
So what's interesting about this and how no one's really put this together is Oyo is nothing more than what Expedia would be if they decided to just slightly change what they say they do. So when you're really not deploying brand standards and things like that, I imagine it's fairly easy to acquire hotels. And so you kind of look at what Oyo's doing, and the word of caution I'd throw out there for anyone who's excited about what Oyo's doing is Oyo is proving a case study for Booking.com and Expedia. Because if Expedia is already talking about they're a technology company now, right. Well, I mean, probably one of the best booking stacks that has been scaled to that level out there is Expedia. So why not, start becoming Expedia hotels?
Yeah.
I don't disagree with you. Well, as a matter of fact, I applaud the idea because it really is. When they walk in, they put lipstick on whatever they walk into, and to some base level of compliance, of familiarity, not because of qualities of certain things, but just really of familiarities. And they are absolutely reaffirming and validating, don't buy early, buy whenever you need it, because the price can be anything at any time, depending upon what we think is demand for that time. So if you're coming into a high demand cycle or conference or something like this, you may consider buying early just because you know that the demand's going to be there, that you're never going to get a better rate. Or you might think that I'm just randomly showing up and the rates are all over the place. I'll just wait until I land and book again.
But there's one interesting dimension in the economy sector. There aren't a lot of properties that they're working with, and they're talking about their South Dallas Inn and things like that. There's nothing cheaper in the market. Right? So what they're doing is they're playing around with demand to fill, and they're dropping to $27 a night because that's what demand is dictating to basically run the place full, right? So, from an ownership perspective, you look at the RevPARs doubled on these things because they were running low. So
because you're taking very effective a hotel that's probably got 3 rates a year,
right?
And
or fixed price or not knowing what they were doing, right?
And then you're applying just some effort. And it's like these are underserved hotels.
Right, underutilized assets, right?
But
I think their model.
Here's the challenge is for Oyo, is all right, so if they're all Oyos, there's no differentiation in the different tiers of hotels.
Oh no, they do. They have townhouses versus they've got like 5 tiers, right? They've got a bunch of them.
Yeah, but I don't know
if they're clear to. I don't
was gonna say I don't think they're clear to travelers. Right. I mean, like I think if you asked most people the difference between a Hilton and a Hampton Inn, they would be able to clearly tell you the basic differences between the two. But like with Oyo and what they're scooping up, they're chasing the long tail for brands. Like that's really what it is. And
it's complete. Yeah, it's the ones that got kicked out of they weren't good enough for Nights Inn. Unfortunately, Tim's not here to defend but the ones that just had really and they are doing some level of brand standard. I mean, but it's not a brand standard that would be for the traditional brands, which the 1-star hotels were not a great. Well, I guess I won that debate. So Ed, I thought I just won the debate. That was the thing. You're out of
my screen went blank and then rebooted me. Yeah, it was weird.
Okay,
that was weird.
But I think it's smart by Oyo to be doing these to get all these underserved hotels to kind of do it. Now, are they going to go knock off Marriott because of it? I don't think so. They may wind up getting more people to travel because it will be more affordable, which is probably a good thing.
I mean,
and sustain hotels and things like that. So,
G6 hospitality needs to be concerned about Oyo.
Oh, absolutely.
And actually, I mean, Oyo is going to be concerned about G6 because G6 has gone through a massive overhaul of their properties.
And upgrading, and they are not cheap. Motel 6, which was $6 a night, is probably
$39. No.
No. Oh no, a bunch of them are. Yeah. Well, again, they're dynamically pricing too, right? So I don't know. Yeah, maybe not 100, but I don't know what the RevPAR. Yeah, I don't know what they're getting, but it's a lot more than people would go.
Well, you got to wonder, is Oyo going to address what Motel 6 addressed, which is how do you keep meth labs out of your hotel?
Yeah.
Because Motel 6 figured it out, and it was required second day room cleaning.
Yeah. Well, two things. One, ID on check-in, right? And I went through this because I used to run marketing for an economy group, and those were issues that we opened an urban hotel. So we stacked, it was really revolutionary. We took a motel and stacked the units vertically downtown. Who would have thought? But
it's a high-rise motel?
Yeah, in a red light district
with exterior corridor like a motel would have. Or?
It didn't have those. No,
because that would be freaky looking. Exterior corridor, vertical.
I think the fire escaping approach was interesting.
Hey.
So, yeah, but yeah, I mean, what we did is we required IDs, and that was a standard. Everybody had to show an ID, and we went back to like old English law that is something you can require. And all of a sudden, all the people who didn't want to show IDs just go, I'm really sorry, I can't. Oh, come on, just make an exception. Go, I can't do it. And it's company policy. And all of a sudden, all the hookers and everything else went, drug dealers went somewhere else. Although in Connecticut, we did have a property which finally they figured out that they had a sting. I think it was the Connecticut State Police, where someone was leaving cocaine, little bags of cocaine inside the air conditioning unit, and then checking out, and then somebody else would come in a day or 2 or 3 later, right? In a non-standard kind of, not like the next night or that day or something like that, so they get caught.
And every now and then,
and take off
have
the grill.
Very agitated guest showing up to the front desk saying, "There's a lot of dust in my room.
There's a lot of dust in my room. Yeah.
Could you guys maybe run a vacuum cleaner or something?"
Yeah.
Hey, I used the fire escape down here.
I feel great.
But they took down a chain because they had several people who were going and doing this, and for some reason would say, oh, can I have a room kind of at the end of the hallway on a corner, on the ground floor or something like that.
Only Robert Cole can take a branded discussion and boil it down to cocaine and hookers. I'm just saying. I mean,
when you're in that, but you brought it in that sector.
Before this client, Robert was really mellow.
Yeah, but that's a problem for those guys, and you don't want you don't want gun battles in your parking lot and things like that. That's not great for the family market. So Oyo's it's gonna be interesting to see how they manage it. But Calvin Anderson, who knows about revenue management, is their chief operating officer. Not chief operating.
I was going to say
chief commerce officer.
That was like a backhanded compliment if I've ever heard one.
Yeah. No, but again, I think Calvin's probably driving this, and from a pure real estate and profitability perspective, I think that's a really smart strategy. Yeah. I mean, I don't think Marriott should go or Ritz. Probably not a great strategy for Ritz-Carlton. But at the bottom end, and I don't think Fairfield wants to go diving after them either. But the lower end Wyndham ones. Who brought nights in? I can't remember. Some
Red Lion.
That's right. Red Lion with some of their Vantage property, things like that. They got to be sweating it out, I think, with these things coming in because they're money. But the other two that I added, though, I thought it was interesting, where you've got Accor is looking at really expanding raffles like crazy, right? So you have this great.
I'm happy with that. I really am happy that they're making
underutilized brand. They don't have enough distribution. There are only a handful of them, and there are a ton of global markets where raffles would be fantastic. And then at the same time, you have IHG with Regent. Same identical Asian underserved hotel group, sort of thing. So they're going to do the same thing. And then kind of Oyo tied in, as Oyo has now passed IHG, right, as the third largest. So that's something people should be looking at and go, oh yeah, it's a flash in the pan. It's not working. It's like, well, yeah, but they've got a lot of breadth. They've got a lot of rooms. So that's something. But I thought the really interesting thing was Sonder. which I don't think most people have heard of, but they just got a $1 billion valuation, and these guys are out there doing luxury kind of home apartment type things, and it's and they're building like these really nice, nice places to stay, short-term rentals with hotel-like amenities, but they're rental properties, right? So it's it's interesting, custom built for as hotels. So they have certainly been getting a lot of investment, and they added 560 units last month. Well, that's certainly not putting Marriott and these guys at a in a
it's like we said. I mean, Sonder's the other side of the coin of Marriott. So, we said that, with the way the internet's going, you're either everything to everyone or you're niche.
Yeah.
Sonder is scaling a niche that is, a really good plan for them.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I think it's a brilliant. So I think it's going to be very interesting. And the reason I kind of organize these is who's looking for these luxury hotel stays, right? And you've got everybody's growing. Four Seasons is growing. Ritz is growing. Everybody's pushing on, how can we get into the luxury sector and expand all these brands? And then here you have Sonder kind of going, well, wait, we can provide rooms kind of like that are maybe even better and cooler. And it's not just a hotel room. It's something, larger and great. Right. So yeah, interesting stuff at the top end of the market and at the bottom end, right? And then you've got everything in the middle for how do you rationalize all these hundreds of hotel brands which aren't differentiated, and big problems like how do you reposition Sheraton and Renaissance and stuff like that, right? So
which brings us to an interesting, because we know we all love Agoda. Agoda is our favorite. We love working with Agoda. Agoda is our friend.
I thought you'd like that headline too.
Great product.
There were some very good clickbaity headlines this week.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, but there is Ghost of the Machine when it comes to this. The article that you had about the fact that they call it in Asia, they're calling it the Hotel California. You check in, but you never can leave. Even after you close your contract with Agoda, supposedly in this article, you still are being listed by Agoda, being shared, especially if you have, of course, other channels of distribution where they just, like Booking.com or something, will go over and they'll pull inventory off of it.
Well, doesn't matter. Or from a bed bank, wherever they go. Yeah. They got lots of sources.
But it is kind of mindful to tell a caution to this is that once you do go into places, and then this is not a detriment to Sojourn when I say this, but when you do start collaborating with platforms like this, your data is forever theirs. Mm-hmm. And, the usability of it and the functionality of it, even if you were to conclude business with them, they're going to use that data for whatever is in their market that you represent as well going forward.
Hey, it could be worse. I mean, if Agoda really wanted to be evil, after you ended your contract with them, they could just always show you as sold out in their listings. If you want to talk about evil, because Agoda's got enough consumer touch that that would actually tell a certain amount of consumers to stop looking for your hotel because it's sold out.
And even the ones that here's a similar property you can buy right now.
And even the consumers who aren't completely swayed by that will question whether or not the rate is bookable anywhere else they see you available because they saw you sold out. So, I mean, it could always be worse.
I think there's recourse with that, though. I think you would be able to pursue something with that as malicious business practice in some capacity.
I don't think it's that one.
They wouldn't be dishonest, if they don't have inventory. That's
false information. If they can't validate that their statement says that you're sold out and they're a merchant.
All right, I mean, let's get rid of sold out and just write no inventory available.
Yeah, they can get around that. I don't think you have legal recourse.
Yeah. No, I think they go, we are sold out, and the hotels don't.
Are you saying that if any of my clients all of a sudden start having problems with Agoda because I just bashed them, that I should think that I should have not been from you?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure all the executives from Agoda watch the show. So.
Oh, well, yeah, that's a given.
Hey, Tim Hughes is a great guy.
We are broadcasting. I mean, we actually have 3 broadcasts in Asia right now. We have this one going live, which is at a ridiculously stupid time that they never watch. Then the actual playback.
How's that different than the viewership in the U.S.?
This is not a ridiculously timed place in the U.S. It's a great time in the U.S.
But no one watches
the question.
No, but no one watches it.
But we're
there's the scheduled one that we have, and then there's a replay that rolls out. So, and the same thing in Europe. So they have 3 opportunities to see our happy, cheery, smiley, talkative faces.
Or any of them watch it 3 times. They're like,
at least 4, I think.
Yeah.
I will say that looking at the statistics, it's kind of interesting that it is slowly creeping. We had 74 viewers in Asia last week.
Whoa!
From Facebook, from the
that's practically the whole population of Asia. I mean, I'm not entirely sure how many people live there, but
it is statistically significant in some small way.
Yeah.
If by Asia you mean like a small 100-person island, and that's where it all came from, then yes.
No, Stuart was thinking fans.
We are very popular in Samoa.
He's thinking of actually the Facebook group that really follows the band Asia. And really,
yes,
that's exactly what I was thinking.
I may have
large.
I may have used certain keywords. Just saying.
That's funny.
Oh my!
Or if they were watching, they're not now because we just
You scared them off. Thank you for scaring off our audience in Asia. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
No, that's only on the HSMA APAC.
By the way, Robert, after this show, are you planning on piloting a helicopter with that headset, or?
I am. Yeah.
That's his new super spiffy headset. Because what happened to the other one, Robert?
My assistant chewed through the cable. So, yeah.
It wasn't getting enough screen time. So,
the cheetah from Rock Cheetah.
Yes, exactly.
That is a serious mamma jamma headset, though. That is definitely
does make you look like a pilot.
I feel like you should say things like Niner and talk about your
Houston. We have a problem.
Roger. We'll just call him
Roger.
What's your over under? What's your Victor? Huh?
Yeah, we definitely lost that last person.
Let's not go down the whole airplane.
I'm glad that this show becomes very focused whenever I'm on it. I mean,
you have this disruptive quality about you.
To be fair, we were talking about constructing lightsabers before he got on, so
we
went off the rails already.
Yeah. Have you made your own personal lightsaber yet? No. Why?
Ed's working on a real one.
You can't be a Jedi until you make your own lightsaber.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah. So, then your training's complete. All right. So, what article have we not hit yet, Mr. Robert, that you want to make sure we got?
The
consumers as we know it.
I thought consumers disliking targeted ads. Like we were talking about personalization and everything before. I think, they don't like retargeting. What do you know?
Yeah, but then in the article it also says, but they don't like meaningless, irrelevant ads either.
That's right. Well,
I have a hard time reading the article because there were so many targeted ads showing up.
That's exactly right. It was very ironic.
Yeah.
I didn't really like this article. I mean, I get what they're trying to say, and there's a stat out there. I mean, if you ask people flat out, do you want to receive any kind of advertising? Probably not, right? I mean, that's
and here's the thing: what consumers dislike are crappy retargeted ad networks. Meaning, I hate when I go to a football forum online and I see ads for a hotel site that I was just on earlier that day.
Right.
That aren't at all targeted. They're targeted at me, but really, I think the problem is most hotels' approach to targeted ads is the same as their approach to email personalization. It's, we know you were here.
Right.
That's the personalized part.
Right.
We were there and we're now pitching it. And the worst part is, I think what really annoys people is even when I make a booking, right? I looked at something, I decided not to buy it, right? I purchased a hotel through another channel, through whatever thing, and then I just keep seeing these ads, and it's like, I'm done with it, and now you're annoying me, right? And there's no way for them to necessarily know that that occurred.
Well, if they're smart, there is. But the problem is they think they're doing great by running those ads because the folks out there steal attribution. There's attribution theft that goes on, and they say, all these people book because they were exposed to your ad, even though it may or may not had some influence. We're going to take 100% of attribution from everything. And
attribution theft is real, yo.
It is. That needs to be a shirt. We need to have attribution theft is real. The shirts. It's real. It happens. There's not a single, I'm not going to call any out by name, but there isn't a single display ad network out there that doesn't do it.
Right.
Not one.
Yep.
No.
Yeah, and people are fooled by it.
And some are even more invasive, as we've talked before in earlier shows, than others, as to their triggers that will reset your sessions and hijack your application.
A really interesting one, though, I think, again, is Google on that, where, boy, if you're tied into Google, Gmail, right, and you've opted in, right, where they're scanning everything and they're pulling your itineraries into Google Trips.
Opted in. You're so funny. You don't opt into that stuff. You have to opt out.
Yeah. So, very good point. I was being somewhat sarcastic.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you have free will.
By using this product, you have agreed to whatever the hell you want to do.
Yeah.
But with that, all of a sudden they could tell, hey, they just made a booking over those dates, right?
Yeah,
so stop the ads.
It's not,
like that.
I mean, but that tracking's not perfect. I mean, Stuart, I don't know how much you've played with it, but like the using the Google login to try and cross domain track people still is not overly strong.
It's not ideal. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you can certainly, if you get a large percentage of your bookings online, you certainly should be filtering those out, right? If someone did go on to book online, take them out. And it's lazy marketing that annoys me. And that's one of the things. Yeah. Oh, we've got a pixel that says anyone that came to the site gets retargeted, but we never bothered to put the pixel in to say when the transaction's complete, stop. It's easy to do. It's not going to solve the problem completely, but it certainly makes it a lot better than if you don't do it.
Yeah, it's certainly helpful.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of goes a little bit to, you have to think to the source of what we're talking about. The information, the data that we're getting is from the very platforms that are validating their existence.
Mm-hmm.
So
imagine that.
Yeah, the fox is watching the hen house, 100%.
And then you add the extra filter that the information that's being shared to the client is from the services, third-party services.
From the agency that's making a commission on the ad.
Yeah, to validate their existence. So by the time the data gets to the client who's writing the check, whose name's on the bottom of it, they've been fed a pretty filtered contact of what their data is actually doing and what they're spending the money for.
I was on a call this week with a prospective hotel client and their social agency. And their social agency was talking about how they refuse to link outward from the social networks because it messes with the algorithm. And I'm sitting here the whole time thinking to myself, like, okay, I understand you're trying to say that because of how it relates to my platform. However, what about when it comes time to book? Do you refuse to, like, so you're gathering people, you're gathering people for the hotel. To what end? Just to gather?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's stupidity.
I've come
there's a
across
lot of that in the agency world. Because they're not wrong in terms of the algorithm you get penalized when there's an external link in terms of your visibility can be decreased, but they're losing sight of the whole purpose. The real reason that you have a social presence isn't just so you can make friends, right? It's so that you can sell hotel rooms. So. Yeah,
it is. I mean, I've come across it a couple of places where doing audits for clients to validate their third-party relationships and so forth. I've seen straight-faced them say, we don't measure revenue generation off of our campaigns because it creates an inaccuracy. And I'm literally going, why are you even doing this?
Creates an inaccuracy? Is this like Heisenberg's uncertainty principle?
Yeah.
What?
Is it because you don't know how to create the tracking, or you don't want to dispute the fact that you're driving a lot of erroneous vanity numbers to your clients so you can charge them?
Like, we can measure impressions really well. But
you know, it's like,
well, I'll put those in my bank account tomorrow. I got lots of impressions in the bank vault.
What I recommend to my clients is if they, and certainly, Fuel, I think this is their business model. If you leave a large hamper of cash, normally like a large unmarked bill, and the agency just takes what they need.
Yeah,
I think
that's exactly
really
right.
kind of the best policy.
Just give us your entire budget and we'll do the rest.
I love listening to them. So we have services that we're offering, and the first question they ask is, well, what's your budget?
Yeah.
When I was on the client side, I'm like, that's like going into a car dealership and saying, I have $40,000 to spend. What can I buy? Oh, amazing. I have this deal for $39,999 right over there.
Yeah.
It's like, tell your budget.
I actually think it would be funny to launch an agency called the Honest Agency and actually make its tagline, we turn money to metrics.
There you
and
go.
then see how many hotels you can get to sign up for it, and then like literally just take their money and turn around metrics.
Here's some stats.
Here's some
I love
stats
the
Oh,
for
your
you.
stats for your hotel. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought
I
you wanted
love
just
the
the sample
slogan.
set.
That's hilarious. Well,
It's
to be
great.
fair, that's not that dissimilar to what some agencies are actually doing now. So
Right.
yeah, and
So-
the booking engine technology out there doesn't help the situation because they don't do a good job of tracking. Like the analytics integration on TravelClick, Sci Hotelier, and Synexus is not great, or
Well,
they
I
don't
mean,
help
it
people
takes-
implement it the right way. You know, it can
Right.
be
I was going
done,
to
but it's-
say, like, when we discovered how those booking engines handle analytics packages,
Yeah.
you have to ask yourself, are they doing this because they know it will create a hurdle for 90% of their customers to not
Right.
properly install analytics?
right.
Or are they doing it out of technical incompetence?
Yeah.
Or
And-
it was
and-
the easiest, cheapest way to bolt it on, right?
Yeah. I don't
No,
know.
no, because actually how, I won't say which one's the worst, but there's one, and its way of communicating with analytics packages is like, there's no way anyone like could look at that and say this is even remotely the right way to communicate to analytics. They literally turn a record for every single little thing, and it's like a floodgate, and then you have to build solutions to like translate all that into actual sessions. And it's one of the popular ones. It's one of the ones Stuart named. And so then I turned around after learning that and actually started asking some of my clients, going, so how are you getting analytics across that booking engine? And they're like, oh, we just get the reports from the booking engine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Because we didn't want to hire a consultant to correctly install the analytics because we couldn't figure it out and we didn't want to pay the money.
Right.
If you want a booking engine that has great analytics tracking, I think we have one that you can just drop Tag Manager in and you're good to go, man. It tracks everything. It's awesome.
Imagine that.
Wow. Wow.
Yep.
Tag Manager, does that work okay? Do people use that? Really? Wow.
They should be. Not enough. Yes. And we even give you the choice of flavor of Tag Manager. You can use Adobe's Tag Manager if you so wish. You can use Tag Manager.
Flexibility?
Yeah, I know. Choice.
Come on now.
Wait, is your website only
see
PDFs?
Stuart, I
using
gotta bug you.
Adobe?
I got to bug your brain sometime. I'm still having a challenge on trying to read Adobe's data center correctly. I am all over the board trying to create reports that I think I'm creating the right correlations and it pulls out weird data that I just don't understand.
Have you tried using Cold Fusion?
Hey, yeah, sure. I also tried to do some rum and it didn't work either, even though I did the dance.
Did you try Ruby on Rails?
Yeah, Ruby on Rails, yeah. I think it's just a lack of familiarity. The UI has changed so much, and the technology for the data segmentation, I'm not relating to very well. I'm not understanding some of the data pools.
I'm probably not your best bet, but I have Melissa Kavanaugh, who is our director of analytics, is probably the most knowledgeable person on the face of the planet when it comes to hotel analytics in Adobe. She's just
sweet. I'll even pay her to help me because I'm trying to.
Just put you in contact with her.
Yeah. Hey, so
he will pay her 100 doll hairs.
I got Libra.
He will barter hospitality digital marketing swag for her time, I'm sure.
There you go. I will let her know.
Although the shirts are only available in XXXL because it's the smallest size that would fit.
Oh no! You missed out a couple X's, dude. There's no. No, there's no 3 X's. That's Tiny Town, okay?
It is a long domain that's got to fit on that shirt.
But you can also use it as a tent. It's okay.
Hey, so we missed one of the biggest articles. The fallen decline, the decline of the Roman Empire, the decline article. That the world's coming to an end.
Oh, the downturn has become.
I half expected when I saw the title that it was going to be written by Robert Cole.
By Robert Cole, right?
No. it's not really a downturn. It's just a plateau, right? And so now occupancy is starting to drop off a little. Actually, last week was quite strong.
Yes, but after a decade of growth,
right? What would you expect?
Even a plateau a downturn?
It's a slowing of growth, which is now, from an occupancy perspective, starting to actually go negative slower growth rates year over year. Right?
I think it's time to panic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, and ADR is still kind of getting, and its growth is slowing. So
you should slash your prices, contract with every OTA, give them more commission so that they'll give you.
Oh, you know what else they should do too?
And
just
cut all your marketing
budget.
and sales.
Yeah.
Oh, don't forget sales
on
too.
Marketing. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. No. Well, that's the first thing you should always do is, one, cut all your marketing off, batten down the hatches, stop wasting money on that, and then give out all guest amenities that aren't monetized. Just shut everything off.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, and definitely find a new supplier for towels that's cheaper in lower quality.
Yes. Well,
that's definitely do that.
I mean, if really. Do you really need to change the sheets between guests?
Yeah, probably not.
In the room, probably not.
A green initiative.
There you go.
That's right.
Tell the guests to bring their own toilet roll. Do that.
Our white linens will stay on the bed until they're green.
Yeah, actually.
Why single-ply toilet paper is your friend?
There was a Holiday Inn franchisee in Cortland, New York. This was a long time ago that used to give you $5 off. I never actually stayed there, but I did see this. This was validated. This was not an urban legend. $5 off if you brought your own sheets. So,
wow.
There you go. So anyway, I don't know if you can do it.
Not a bad idea.
Just think, if you clean the room. What if you clean the room afterwards to get a discount? I don't know. Yeah. Somebody listen to this. That business model will happen.
The Aloft in London, Excel Center, if you choose not to take housekeeping, they will give you a £5 F&B credit.
Yeah, that's pretty common.
Sandestin Resort down in Florida does. When we went there for a conference, they gave 2 free drink tickets per day that you didn't get housekeeping while you're there.
Well, I mean, even the place we stayed in the Netherlands, it was a long-term stay place, minimum 5-day stay, and housekeeping was on the 3rd day, and then on the 7th day, and then on the 10th day, and it just, you didn't need. And in all honesty, you technically really don't for most things. Unless you're an incredibly messy person.
Well, unless your 2 drink tickets turn to 7 drinks. And,
which is the purpose of the 2 drink tickets.
Yeah, for sure. But I think, we've had a lot of conversations recently with the whole labor market challenges that we're facing in the industry right now, especially in markets where there's a lot of weekend travelers or people that are checking in on Fridays and Saturdays, and just turning over the rooms is quick enough, and having enough housekeepers is being a real challenge. So a lot of folks are beginning to consider the concept that we're talking about, which is reducing the daily housekeeping duties. And I know a couple of people that tried it a few years ago and failed miserably because it wasn't an opt-in approach. It was just, here's our new policy. We're not going to do this. Or one of them, actually, what they did is they offered a rate online. So you could have here's the rate, or you can book this other rate, but in the fine print, you don't get daily housekeeping. Well, people were booking the lower rate, but still expecting housekeeping, and it became a nightmare.
Because it was in the fine print. It should have been in the rate plan's name.
Right. Yeah. And even then, I think you're going to run the risk of some people just being difficult, right? So the ways I've seen it done really well is like at the Sandestin Resort, where everyone's booking the same thing. It's not like you're giving them a discount for it. You're adding value for them to choose it, but it's an opt-in at check-in. So you say, hey, do you want to forego daily housekeeping? In exchange, we'll give you this benefit. Then you're going to deal with a lot fewer headaches doing it that way. And like you said, in the case of Sandestin, yes, I didn't stop at 2 drinks, so I ended up spending more money on property than I would have.
I was at that.
Had those things.
Wait, you drink? I didn't.
I was drinking orange juice.
This is the importance of integrating your point of sale detail data, particularly from your bar, with the guest profile. So yes, you know that those two
No, you
free
just
drink
run a
tickets will.
report of how much, alcohol revenue you did, and you only look at positive KPI. I mean, we should treat it like we treat email marketing.
Yeah,
This
that's right.
email made us
I'll tell you
$150,000.
something.
Who
That's right.
cares how many people unsubscribed? Who
Oh,
cares how
boy.
many
Things
people
that I used to
never
do
engage us again?
in operations before we really had a lot more tech to do it with is I split up during peak seasons for one of the Florida hotels I was GM of. We split up our housekeeping crews from being all set where our housekeeper comes in and does the full room, where I would hire the grocery shelf stockers kids that after they finished stocking the shelves after the grocery stores with them, they come over to the hotel, and we changed our laundry cycle so that they uplifted the laundry to the floors that needed to be done based on the departure times on those floors. So the product was already there because then the housekeepers didn't have to lug it for themselves. So their carts were set and ready. Anybody that runs hotels knows that cart setting is a time-consuming, blah, blah, blah. And we push all that stuff up. And then we split our housekeeping teams up so that the first team that rolled through stripped the rooms. That's all they were doing, was stripping the rooms and cleaning the surface countertop and functionalities. The beds weren't done. And the follow crew behind them, which already had their product on the floors, was a second shift of housekeeping. So we kept rotating the housekeeping shifts so they weren't over on time. And also we weren't doubling up on hours spent. So they would come in later, and then they would rotate. There would be a stripping crew, the next week or whatever, and they would go over and set the rooms afterwards. We also create incentives for those who were traveling that if they left before a certain time of the day, we actually gave them credit back towards their stay. That said, if you can guarantee you're out of our room, and we made short lists out of that with Night Audit. So we had a time schedule the whole morning when they were coming in, when they were stripping, when they were stocking, when they were rolling, and we were able to turn and burn, and we actually could have everybody check in the rooms, if not earlier, at least on time, all the time during peak season. It worked out pretty well, and this is before tech. We didn't have, other than radios at the time.
A great head housekeeper who can really handle that and figure out how to manage that staffing is invaluable. I mean, that's just absolutely. I mean, not just the standard for cleaning the rooms properly, but efficiently delivering rooms early. Is huge. I mean, you just eliminate so many dissatisfiers.
Most family issues out of any department is housekeeping.
Oh yeah,
because you have the larger base of employees, and you have the largest diversification of life cycles.
Yeah,
between families and not families and so forth. It's not because the gender relationship of what you tend to have mostly working for you. It literally is because you have the largest staffing and you have the highest considerations of getting them to work, because not all of them can get to work on their own. They have to consider lots of their family schedules and stuff. And we even had shuttle buses, because we found out where most of the housekeepers were sitting and being at. We actually ran our airport shuttle bus to pick up our teams earlier and later, depending on what we needed, because it helped them organize their day against their family.
Absolutely.
So the family could take the car that they had. One car, big family, doesn't always work for everybody.
Yep. The absolute most important employee of any hotel,
and
including any corporate office staff.
Yeah. Oh, above anything. Yeah.
Board.
And always
Number
feed
one.
them really, really well.
Yes. Never
cheap out on feeding your crew. I mean, we just didn't give them leftover banquet stuff. We always made specialty food for everybody. Everyone knew what the menu was. They had input to the menu. We had quality control from their department. So if we fall short of it, we would know right away. Because a lot of times they won't tell you, and they just get mad at you, and productivity goes down. We always want to make sure they had great food.
Or you could just do contractual basis, and you could have this large pool of just demand. You pull in, you don't have to pay them benefits, you don't have to feed them, can control the shifts. I don't know. That's good.
I don't think that's a real good idea. But anyway,
no.
Hey, gents, I have
hotels are doing that.
No. Geez.
It's been a pleasure.
We do have a rubber, but before you go, Mr. Stewart,
I thought there was
Where can people find about you and your amazing podcast and product and Blue Shift and everything?
Yeah, so I got a lot of things to pimp today. So we got the website is fueltravel.com if you want to learn anything about us. We also have this amazing travel study right here, which is now published to the public, and you can get this at fueltravel.com/study. And you can also listen to our podcast, which we're doing an episode on. Tim actually inspired us on this one. Tim gave on his podcast mentioned about Jeff Bezos's quote, where you should focus on the things that aren't changing as much as you focus on the things that are changing. So we're going to do a whole episode on the things in hospitality marketing that are not changing and never will change that you need to be focused on. So we're doing that today. We're going to record it, publish that next week, but that's fueltravel.com/podcast. So yeah.
That's great.
Now, are you listing yourself as an
marketing,
accomplished
excellent.
publisher now that you've popped that thing out? Because that's more than that's not the only article. I mean, is it now Stuart Butler, accomplished publisher?
I've been doing the rounds recently. I've had had a couple of articles on Hotel Executive. I'm turning into Tim Peter. I'm going to have like the whole internet has been written by me before too long, and I'm also going to be on Glenn Hausman's podcast No Vacancy this coming week as well, talking about the study and some of the data. So we should probably talk about on one of our upcoming episodes some of the data from the study, because there's some really interesting stuff that came out of it.
You actually, you know what? I'll extend that even farther. Why don't you take some of your crew and bring them on the show? Because we have, Holly doesn't show up with us anymore as much, so we're just, and you guys take the show and do the program with it and go through the whole data for it. I think
I may take you up on that. Yeah, we did a cool episode on the podcast last week where we each picked our 8 favorite stats or most important or shocking stats from the study, and then we kind of each said what our number 8 was and why, and then went up to 1. And it was interesting to see the different stats that stood out to us, but all 4 of us had the same number 1 stat, which was 86.7% of all people, regardless of how they book, whether they're booking on OTAs, over the phone, online, on your website, doesn't matter. 86.7% of people do visit your hotel website before they go on to book, wherever they book eventually. So
which tells you that you no longer need to advertise.
right?
That's the insight we get from that, right?
That along with the fact that we as an industry are doing a piss poor job of converting people.
Conversion? What?
Yeah.
No, come on.
Yeah. All right, Jen, it's a pleasure.
Have a great weekend. See Spider-Man Far From Home.
Hey, so let's do the row.
Oh, I thought one interesting one was the millennial obsession, which I just thought was very interesting. I'll just one quick stat. Millennials have a combined spending power of $200 billion, but 60% don't own a single credit card. So all of a sudden, where you need the credit card to book,
it's really hard to get a credit card when you're drowning in student loans. I mean,
that is exactly the problem. And they're sitting there going, why, I'm trying to save for whatever, my credit rating sucks. And the last thing they want is an additional credit card. So I thought that was a very, very interesting, approach. And then how do you figure this out with alternate payment, methods and things like that. So
I don't think you need to. Why? Because even though they don't have credit cards, they can get prepaid cards. And actually, most of them probably already do, because their parents are still throwing money on them for them.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And those are debit cards backed by Visa, MasterCard, whatever.
Right.
So, maybe get a better policy on taking deposits on debit cards, and don't hold, triple the room rate or something.
Yeah, exactly.
When you do it. But other than that, I mean, taking a credit card, I still.
Well, and some won't take debit cards as guarantees and things like that.
No, without charging $500 base or something like that, and hold it for
right, which is
days.
It's which is rough.
Massively obstructive, purposefully, unfortunately.
Yeah. So you want to hit the rut row?
We all have experienced this. I know you can actually point at airports that do this. That you can't order from a real person. You have to go through the kiosks to do it, regardless of whether the human's standing right there or not.
Yeah. You can't do it that way. Yeah, have it your way is not certainly not with a human. But basically a gentleman went and just really, said, nope, I'm here and I am not here to help you. It's kind of the bottom.
Here's the thing. Okay. This is such a skewed point of view. Because quite honestly, it's use that computer, which is super self-explanatory. Like, it's not difficult at all. It's the same as reading a menu.
I think he amplified the negativity of it on purpose for the
article. Right. I mean, this is such sensationalism of an issue. I mean, it's this or the moody teenager who's undertrained and not at all interested in you and potentially is going to spit in your food because they didn't like your attitude back to them. I'll take the computer screen. Like, I because I have kids, I go to McDonald's, not for myself, for them. Man, even if there is no one in line, I will go to the touchscreen versus speaking to that person at the counter, because I know if I do the touchscreen, my order is being entered correctly.
Exactly. Yeah.
Versus,
I've done it for Chick-fil-A. Actually, the Chick-fil-A app is pretty good at doing things like remembering previous orders and things like that. They've done a good job. Very simple with the modifications to the menu, and a lot of these are just really basic. And actually, Micros has a lot of these capabilities. All of them with modifiers on menu items, right? These have been around for forever. But just yes, I'd like a large iced tea versus a medium or a small. All those sorts of
There's also one other thing that things doesn't point out well, and I'm going to point to LaGuardia as my example of these kiosks. Is they're all over the place.
Theirs are good
you
too.
Can't have enough staff to be all over the place.
Right.
And who changes, somebody stands up versus sitting down, has been served, not been served, need their check. Because in an airport, as we all know when we're traveling, getting the check is just as important as how fast you get the food.
Seriously. And that's the thing, like, that this article is completely glazing over, which is, the bottom line is automated self-service is far superior to piss poor service.
Bad training. Yeah. To bad training service.
Right. And in most cases in an airport, at a McDonald's, I can continue going, you're going to find more often than not poor service.
Yeah.
Well, it also doesn't take into effect the evolution of what this is creating, and that is not having to even use the kiosk. You can now do gate delivery on some of the airports. They're offering the fact that you're in a rush to get from point A to point B in the airport, and you're going along the people walker and stuff like this. You pop open the app for that airport for whatever meal area that you want. You see, a sushi place or something, whatever, and you pop it up on the app as the place that you can order from. You order and say the gate that you're at and the time that you need it by, make the payment when it's delivered, and boom, your food's at the gate for you. Now, is it the most pleasurable experience? Eating in an airport is not a destination eating environment. Okay. Now.
Oh, really? I was going to take my wife to.
Yeah. That being said, I had some really great
dinners
at DFW Airport at Papacitos. I mean, they have some nice little restaurants in there that if you got the time, it's a great dining experience. The
airports are getting better and paying attention to it because they've figured out this is a huge revenue.
Well, and there's nothing like
satisfaction.
Raising the bar at the bus station so that when people get on the buses, it can be that much more obvious how bad the service is there.
Exactly.
Right. So the airport raising the bar when you get on the airplane and you're treated like you're on a Greyhound bus, it's just that much more obvious.
Well, and you think that the airlines have created this, right? Because by not serving decent meals or anything, now everybody's like, hey, we've got to go eat before we get on this 4-hour flight because they're going to charge us $15 for something that's horrible.
For some crappy dry hummus mixed with a weird pack of olives.
I think the airplane calls that the deluxe cheese platter charcuterie.
The protein, the protein to go type thing.
Yeah.
Anyways, gentlemen, I do have to run. Yes. Ironically, I do have to go meet a person at the house I'm getting ready to list.
Is that going good?
Well, if you look on my Facebook, you will see I'm doing nothing but solving problems.
He's been live streaming the whole thing.
I love how you can drain a yard. I didn't know you could drain a yard. That was very impressive.
Oh yeah, man. And I'll tell you what, 3 weeks from now, that yard will be dry as a bone from having that sump buried in there. Yeah, it's the second yard I've had to do this too. So
of course, the neighbors are going to have really problems with their family room, under 2 inches of water.
Well, I mean, actually, the problem I'm worried about, and I think I'm going to put a cap on it, is when it first kicks on, it shoots out that pipe pretty far. Yeah. So if you're just walking by, it may get you waist level with so that barrel that you saw it draining almost as fast as the toilet flushes, that's probably 50 gallons.
Those are sump
that you're watching.
Is it basically a sump pump?
It is a sump pump. It's a submersible sump pump. And it's a half horsepower one, so that thing.
Oh yeah.
And that was better than just leveling out the land. You couldn't just level out the land by adding some more fill.
17 truckloads it would have taken to correctly level it, or
a sump pump.
$110 sump pump, a $20 bucket, a 4-hour rental of a trencher, 80 feet of PVC, and 14 feet of drain pipe.
Yeah.
And you don't really need a battery backup on your sump pump or anything like that, because it's not in the house. It's
and I already had electricity outside too, which was really handy. So I didn't have to, run an electrician on that. So yeah, it's capable of pumping 3,600 gallons an hour. So that yard will never flood again.
All right, so Mr. Ed, where can they find you about Flip 2?
Well, if you want to learn about Flip 2, you can go to flip.to. If you want to learn about home renovations, I guess you can follow me on Facebook. And you can find me anywhere on social media, Edward St. Ange. Gentlemen, sorry I was late.
Thanks for the join.
Nice to say hi, and hope you all
nice
have a great
to see
weekend.
you for the first time in a quarter or something like that.
It happens. So,
well,
all right,
the renovation took a long time. So.
All right, see you. Bye.
I know. All right, Mr. Robert, if people want to know more about you and the wonderful Rock Cheetah world and why you look like you should be working at NASA or flying a helicopter or a Boeing 747.
Yeah, it does have kind of a high tech.
Yeah, it's got a good
look.
But
does the sound better than it was before?
It sounds good. I mean, it sounds good. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. It even has, I got a little, look at this. Ooh. I even have something like that. So I went really high grade on this. So yeah, and it's.
Or you can do sports commentary. You can do golf. You can
Focusrite.
do golf.
Oh, that's backwards. But yeah. It's Focusrite spelled wrong. Yeah, but anyway,
like
so I can be a golf commentator. I can go down to the Mavericks games and sit down at the bench and have people think that I'm one of the commentators. So there you go. But rockcheetah.com or at Robert K. Cole.
And for those who want to watch this episode in its entirety from the beginning, if you just caught us somewhere in the parts of it, you can go to hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com/live. Look for the link for show number 205. There is, of course, all the other links to all of the previous 204 shows prior to this. We're coming up on our 5-year anniversary next month of our weekly show. For those who are watching us in the Asia Pacific region, this will be recasted on Monday at 11:30 Sydney time, which is an hour earlier than Singapore and 2 hours earlier than Malay. For EU, it is on London time on Tuesday at 3 o'clock that the simulcast will go back out again. And that'll be on London time, so it'll be an hour short off of Amsterdam. And for any questions you have when you watch the simulcast or the recast, will be sent to us as hosts, and we'll be happy to answer any of those following questions. If you'd like to join us live, you can petition for us to go over and join us live on our cast, or you can also join the webinar as you watch it, and we will engage you there too. So with all that in mind, thanks everyone for having watched, and we will catch up with you next Friday, 11:30 Eastern, for show number 206, which I believe will be hosted by Mr. Robert Cole, if I have bad reception, because I will be on a small little island. And
wait, when is that again?
Yeah.
Huh?
So it might be the Robert Cole show next week.
On which next week? Oh, the 19th. Oh, gee,
yes,
I don't know.
Yes, the 19th. It might be the Robert Cole show. It's the Robert Cole show. It's the Robert Cole. We'll have to put a multicolored Johnny Carson curtain behind you. Here's Robert.
And I've got to drop off because my wife is calling me, and we're finding out if she's on jury duty or not.